So now that everything's cleaned, it's ready to put it back together. So let's see. So first, let's start by putting together the trigger housing with the trigger spring. Now, let's see, this is important. When you are putting together the trigger housing and the trigger spring, the spring should go in. Alright, let's see if we can get this here. So you have the mouth open on this end and the mouth open on the top. So the mouth that's open on pointed down, it's going to go on this part of the trigger bar. So it scoops in right like that. And then the open part's going to go on the housing. And the housing is this little, I don't know if you can see it, that little hole right there. It's a little bar, and what you do is you come from underneath, you kind of clip it on, so you go straight in and then over, and then you're back on. Now to put it back in is kind of the same way. You're gonna put it on, pull it down, push it in, and then let it fall into place. And 1 second, I was a little late there. Before you do that, you have to place your connector back on. So the connector goes on first, and it's only one way you can put it. It fits right into the groove there. You just stick the end in there, push it down, make sure it's all the way down, and now you complete your trigger job. Alright, so now your trigger's back together. Now with that done, you can begin putting the handgun back together. So the first piece in is going to be the trigger and the trigger housing, and there's little grooves there. It fits right in place, so it's only one way to put it in, so you really can't have an issue there. Once you have your trigger and your trigger housing placed, you can now put your lock and block back in. And again, the lock and block is going to go this way in there, because you have to remember the pin is going to be going through those holes right there. Again, there's really only one way you can put it in there for it to actually fit. So now you got your lock and block in, you got your trigger in there. You want to put your slide release back in. So now the slide release is going to go in. You'll see here that the slide release has a lip. That's going to face you. So the same way you take it out, you put it back in. You got to push the spring down. Remember the silver spring? Just got to push that down. And then you slide your slide release back in. Let it go. And then you just might have to pop it in place. Give it a few things, make sure it's in there, okay. Perfect. So now you got your slide release, your lock and block, and your trigger back in. So what's left on here is you want to put in your slide release, your slide stop now. Excuse me, getting confused. And since I had it open, I purchased this extended slide stop that I'm going to be putting in here. So now, how can I see if you can see this? With the slide release, it fits in there perfectly. You're going to see here you have your trigger bar, then you have an open space, then you have another open space. That's where your slide stop is going to go. And you just squeeze it in there, drop it down, and push it back, make sure it's in place correctly. And you should be able to see there's a hole. You want to go completely through with that. That's how you know you're all set up. So right now your slide is back together. You want to place your pins back in now also. I mean your frame, I apologize. Your frame is back together, and you want to put your pins back now. So remember, the same way that I push them out is how I want to push them in. This is my personal preference. Your back strap pin you can just push in yourself. No big deal. Alright, so first I'm gonna put in the bigger pin with the 2 grooves. Remember, this holds together your slide release, your slide stop, your lock and block. So you want to start it off, and you want to make sure you get past your this. So you see that's not in there yet. See, and then once you get in there, you can finish it off. Now you just grab your mallet again and your punch and just ease it in there. And we're having connection troubles again. This is probably the only difficult part. It's going to take a little again. There you go. So now once you're in there, now you just want to kind of tap it into place, because you can see you can push it as much as you can, but both pins should be flush. So if you see here on this side, the pin is recessed and it's pushed out here. So you just want to even it out. I believe this is important. This is how, when you get the gun, this is how it is. You should take the time to make sure that it's perfectly aligned. And just take a few times. That looks good. If you're off. That looks perfect. And then you continue again with the next pin. Remember, this is the smaller one with the 2 recessed ends. And that one goes in. And that you can, that one's easier to get in. You can just use the mallet. And you want to do the same thing. I gotta get a smaller hammer. Just haven't got around to getting one. Alright, so now you're in. Check again. You want to make sure your sides are about the same. And that one went in perfect. Okay. So now your frame is completely reassembled. And we can put that off to the side. Now we want to work on our slide. So before we begin the slide, we want to put our striker back together. So you're going to get your pacer, your spring cups, and your firing pin, and your firing pin spring. Now a trick to this is, again, I'll use the masking tape. So first you want to take your striker, take your pacer sleeve, the open end faces down. So you stick it in like that. Now you have to get your spring on. So here's the difficult part. What I like to do is I take this lip and I put it at the end of the tape like that, because if not, it's just going to go down. So if you place it on there, it's going to kind of hold it up. Then you can stick your spring down and get your... Oh, be careful here too, because you're... That's exactly why you got to be careful. Alright guys, I'm going to pause it while I go look for my spring cups. Alright, I'm back. I found the spring cup. Luckily it hit the door. My room has carpet here, so it could have been lost forever. Alright, let's try this again. If anybody has an easier way of doing this, please feel free to let me know. So once you get them both in there, you let it go and it's locked back to place. Look, now it actually looks like a Glock striker again. Alright, so now that's done. So pretty much now it's just a normal completing the process. So you want to take your extractor. Now the round circle part faces towards the end of the barrel. And you just slip it in like so. and then you take your firing pin safety and you put it in there. Well, and then we're good. Then you press down on it and stick that in, and then release it. Once you release it, it locks it so it can't get out. Now you take your extractor plunger. The white piece, the spring side, faces the back of the barrel, so you just stick it in like that, and now you're all set. You take your striker, only goes in one way, stick that down. Alright, so, and you got your slide cover plate. So what you do again is you start the process. You take your cover plate and you slip it in there. I hold it with one hand. Then I take my punch and I push down on the striker until it covers it, push it up, and then you have to push down on the extractor plunger and snap it back. Alright, now we just finished the job, which most of you guys know. You put the barrel back in, take your guide rod. This is a Gen 4, so this is a little tricky. And it goes on the second lip. Now you're all set. Now it's time to make this thing look like a handgun again. So, then you... And now you're back together. Now, when you disassemble and reassemble your gun, you just want to do a function check. So let's go through some of the functions. Just make sure it fires. Cock. Looks good. Check the slide lock. Alright, that works. Place a magazine in there. Make sure it locks back. Perfect. This is why I got the snap cap. I just want the snap cap. I just want to make sure it feeds. It has some oil on it. Looks good. Now, since you removed all the strings, I suggest that you check your trigger reset. And the way you do that is you just fire, hold the trigger down, and cock it back. So you're just simulating the gun firing, and then slowly release the trigger, and you should hear a snap, which means that the striker is cocked again. It's in ready position again, about a quarter of the way up. So let's make sure. Let's see if you guys can hear it. There it is. So now you know it's cocked. You can shoot it again. And that's how you check the trigger reset. So I'm gonna do that one more time. Yeah. You all good? And that is the complete reassemble of the Glock 23. Alright guys, well, I hope this helps. Thanks.